sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to another rollicking episode of My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian, but my secret back pocket thing is that my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to Giggle Genie, Virginia Jones.
I just know you're going to run out.
I'm never going to run out, okay? I've got too much creativity in this brain to run out.
Laura, on this podcast, one of us looks up a topic, researches it, thinks about it a little bit, and then brings it to the table for the other one to be surprised by.
So this week, I'm the garden gnome. What's our topic today, Virginia?
As we record this, we're just stepping into fall. Everyone's coconut oil is hardening. There's already Halloween Oreos in the Walgreens. But we're leaving behind the season of the bride, where everybody wants to make their 8 best friends wear a matching dress.
Marriage.
Marriage is what brings us together today. But I want to talk about something very specific in marriage and the accompanying social media phenomenon. And that is cake smash.
If you want to know more about marriage, you can ask yourself, is marriage good for women? And if you want to know more about that, go back and check out our podcast episode. Cake smash. This is a symbol of the patriarchy. What is the origin? Why did it start?
The origin actually goes back to Roman times. You're starting your life with someone, and a groom would break a cake made of wheat or barley over the bride's head. So this is more like a bread, and there'd be crumbs. It was symbolic of his authority over her. It was supposed to bring good fortune and fertility and all the things that you want going into a Roman marriage. In medieval England, this evolved. You would stack a bunch of small cakes as high as you can and then try to kiss over the cakes. And it's kind of like a wishbone. If we can do it without cakes falling, it's going to be a good marriage.
Well, that's kind of fun. No one gets hurt with
Adorable.
that one.
No. The late 19th century is when people started delicately sharing cake to one another. And that can be a very sweet moment of exchange and trust. In the 70s, grooms started smashing cake in the bride's face, and sometimes vice versa, as a fun prank.
That's what I want on my wedding day, is pranks.
And like most things, the first time someone did it, I think this was probably hilarious because it's such a quiet and formal moment. And to smash cake instead of gently feeding it to each other, I can see the humor in that. Now it's just a thing that happens. What we've been seeing on the internet especially are, it hasn't been discussed, it's not consensual, the bride has not said okay. The groom will sometimes go to great lengths to smash cake in her face. It's become like a humiliation ritual. It's not fun.
Well, it's more of an assault situation.
Yeah, I've definitely, on the extreme side, seen videos where grooms are dragging their brides to the floor in order to smash cake in their face.
Pinning them down and shoving a whole cake on their head.
Dr. Cecilia Regina did a really good TikTok about it and talking about the history of it, but what it means now and what it seems to mean about the dynamic between the bride and the groom. It came from male dominance, so it's still male dominance. But what else do you think is motivating a guy to smash cake in his new wife's face an hour into their marriage?
I think it's a humiliation ritual. And I think it's to establish dominance. Did you hear about Jake Paul's stunt at his brother Logan's wedding? The two brothers are standing there, and it's a beautiful cake, very expensive. And the brother is just punching the hell out of his brother's cake.
Well, those guys are mentally ill.
Right. Because obviously the cake is for the bride.
Right.
It's the bridal thing. And she's supposed to have this big, beautiful moment. But Jake Paul's decided that he's going to punch the hell out of it first.
I think that that's part of what leads to this. The whole day is for the bride. She wants to look the most beautiful she's ever looked. There's a lot of pressure to be so beautiful that your groom's eyes melt out of his head, like in the end of Indiana Jones. It's about getting her picture taken. It's about being surrounded by friends and family. It's about showing off that she's achieved this ridiculous goal in cishet culture. of taking on a man that she is forced to make a life with. What the Paul brothers act has in common with the traditional cake smashing is it's a diss to her. It's an assault on her day, even if it's not an assault on her.
A thing that she's been trying to plan for and think about probably for most of her life, a day that marks a really important passage for her and a totally different life for her. We have to poop on that.
Your favorite guy, John Gottman, in an article about cake smashing, said it's a lot about intent. And if it's done with aggression and not playfulness, there's a contempt there for the bride. In talking about this, it can be a display of contempt, which is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in a relationship. The other 3 are criticism, which feels pretty obvious. You should not go out of your way to criticize your partner or the things they do. Defensiveness happens a lot when there's criticism. When your partner is giving you feedback, try not to be defensive. Try to just accept it and respond in kind. And then stonewalling, which is you're just refusing to engage. I find this to be an important horseman because for me, when I'm stonewalling, it means I'm done.
A lot of people believe that stonewalling is the nicer thing to do rather than being rude and saying horrible things. Here are some other examples of contempt: insults and name calling, hostile humor, sarcasm, mockery, body language and tone of voice, sneering, eye rolling, upper lip curled. And I do feel like the cake smash falls under hostile humor.
A lot of times it can be how you treat your partner in front of other people. It's one thing to be a real a-hole at home, but when you're having dinner with another couple and he says, "You won't believe what she wasted my money on this week," or "I don't understand any of her shows. They seem ridiculous." That's another level. And I think the cake smash can be a display of contempt in front of both of your families and all of your friends and just showing you, this is what I think of the person that I said I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
You remember that viral video? Part of his vows was saying, I want to have a full belly, testicles emptied.
Head smashing against the headboard. It was really graphic about what he expected from his wife.
Making a joke of her and making her look like a really gross person in front of everybody, including their children.
Right. And basically saying the quiet part out loud. I expect you to be in servitude of me and all of my needs.
Especially my sexual needs.
Right. And I feel entitled enough to talk about that in front of your grandma. There was a AITA Reddit about this bride. Her husband had smashed the cake in her face when she expressly told him not to. And he had actually given her a fork full of cake. So the fork injured her. And she walked out of the wedding. She was thinking about leaving him and asked Reddit, because of course Reddit is the best place for advice. A lot of people agreed with her. That's taking it too far. Even if he had intended to have a fun moment, displaying your love in front of all of your friends and family should not involve injury. It's just not a good harbinger for the rest of the marriage. The men who replied, a lot of the comments were, she can't take a joke or she needs to toughen up. What do you think about that?
It sounds like domestic violence. She needs to toughen up and be prepared to be harmed and to have to defend herself with her husband. If your husband is not a safe place for you, then you're in the wrong relationship. That's the person that you're supposed to be trusting with every part of your life.
My other thought about the cake smash is there's no way this is the first instance of violence or aggression. This is something she's been putting up with behind the scenes. And why does she put up with it? Because she's been told that this is the most important thing. Even if she doesn't think she deserves a really great partner, she knows she has to be partnered with someone to fit in with society and the stuff that's expected of her. She is forced to partner with someone who does not have her best interest at heart, who thinks that he needs to demonstrate his male dominance in front of their friends and family, who needs to potentially injure her and make a joke out of her.
When I reflect on my marriage, the first time I had the experience of domestic violence was one of many experiences. But I look back at the early moments when we were first courting. There were gestures, there were things that he did. You're standing at this path where you can go one direction or the other. And I went the wrong direction several times before I agreed to marry him, because I think we're also taught in our culture to deny and ignore terrible things. I remember I was just dating him. We had only been dating for a few months. We were at an Airbnb and there was this hammock, and it was a freestanding hammock. You have to both get on at the same time to balance it. We both got on. We were in nature. We're looking at the clear blue sky, the clouds. And then suddenly out of nowhere, he just stands up. And then I fall to the ground. I'm in the dirt. The hammock is flipped over. And I thought it was a mistake. And then I realized he's laughing at me. As I look back over our relationship, that should have been the moment where I left him.
One, we are trained to put up with all kinds of crap. Two, it's an escalating thing. The first thing can be really small. Well, that's not that big a deal.
What kind of a jackass, just for the hell of it, decides to knock me to the ground and then laugh at me about it? That's not a good person. My whole life, being bullied by boys was just par for the course. And it was just something that we all needed to put up with.
In one of my terrible relationships, we went to one of my old haunts, which was a bar where I used to host stand-up comedy. They had a boxing machine because I used to box and train for boxing, and I taught classes.
And you're a show off.
And I'm a show off. At my core, I'm a show off. One of my party tricks after running a show or an open mic, I would put 50 cents in the boxing machine, and some of the open micers would try to get a better score than me, and it would be hard for them. And I would humiliate men in public, which is something I like to do. People say women don't have hobbies.
That's your humiliation ritual.
Right. And so I didn't invite my boyfriend to do it. I wasn't particularly interested in showing him up. I was on the machine. We were there with his brother. And then the next morning, my boyfriend showed me a video his brother had made of me boxing on the machine, but then they'd added fart noises onto it. And he showed it to me and he was like, "Isn't this funny?" And it was a test. It was a test to see what kind of crap I would put up with. And because we were on a trip together and I was trying to make nice, I'm like, haha. And at the time I thought, you're being really cool. You're really being cool about this. And now I realize there was no reason to be cool at two brothers trying to humiliate me.
Well, you could have been Logan Paul's wife. Just know that.
How does she feel? She's marrying a famous YouTuber. I don't know what her background is, but she has gone to a special meeting to taste cakes with him and to pick the one that they wanted, get a cake that meets her specifications.
And also, this was a huge cake. It was designed to feed 150 people, 200 people, something like that.
So when she makes the scene, she finds that her brother-in-law has smashed it. And they stay together. They just had a baby last year for whatever reason. That can't feel good. I almost feel like Jake Paul was smashing it not only to just be wacky and look at this crazy stunt I can do, because that's their whole thing is crazy stunts. But to say my relationship with you, Logan, is more important than your relationship with your wife.
Absolutely.
Dr. Cecilia's video that we talked about earlier, you can find it on the TikToks, and it's definitely worth looking at. She posits that some of the marriages that start with this cake smash, the guy's demonstrating that he didn't want to get married, that he's being forced to do this. He gave her a shut up ring and then he just kept hanging out. And so he's getting married because he feels he has to. That's part of why he's going to humiliate her, get back a little bit. I'm giving you something you want, which is marriage to me, a heterosexual man. But my revenge that I'm going to exact upon you is this cake smash or obscene vows or some other way that I'm going to show I'm exerting my dominance. You haven't gotten the better of me. Look back at our previous episode. Women are willing to put up with a lot to get that ring on that finger because Our whole lives, we've been told that that's what makes us members of society, useful, protected, safe.
I don't think we've been told that. That has just been the facts.
We talked in previous episodes. A woman was saying, if you have to buy your own wedding ring, don't get married because he doesn't want to get married.
I did. And
Right.
that was correct. I remember reading the book, Believing Me, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse and Complex Trauma by Ingrid Clayton, PhD. And she was talking about her first marriage. And she said it was so humiliating because her husband wouldn't buy her an engagement ring and she had to go pick her own engagement ring and buy it herself. And I did the same thing. And I actually sent her an email and said, "Are you reading my diary?" She ended up having a very similar marriage to mine, to a man who didn't want to be there. He did it because he was, in his experience, strong-armed into it and because she wanted it. But he let her know every day of their marriage that he didn't really want to be there. I think it's a common thing. Women feel that they have to force this man's hand and get him to do, quote unquote, the right thing.
Women are willing to put up with small obstacles to push the stone along towards this ultimate goal. We think about marriage as an achievement or an institution. Don't get married to get married. And I'm sure I've said this before. Don't get married because it's the time that you need to get married. Get married because you want to join lives with this partner. If you get married to someone who doesn't 100% want to marry you and doesn't 100% want to be there, you're joining your lives and you're tying your destiny, your emotional well-being, your financial future, your everything to someone who does not want to protect you.
And I think also for me, I have a plan in mind. I wanted to have children. I was 32 years old and practically dead. And my husband was a broke student. I thought I'll help him out by taking care of the ring and he'll make it up to me, which he definitely didn't.
I think that this desire, not necessarily the desire for children, because I think it's more acceptable than ever to have children out of wedlock.
It's not about it being acceptable. It's about it being
hard.
viable. I am a single parent and it's really, really, really hard. I wanted to raise a child with my husband. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have the lifestyle. The problem is that you can't just do that by yourself. You have to rely on a man to help you with this goal.
I think that in your particular case, it was really hard because you were created by our childhood to be hyper independent and say, well, I can do everything myself. I can do everything myself, including have this marriage. I can get it all done. But in the end, the other person does have to participate a little bit. I worry that this idea that women are given that a relationship with a man that does not end in marriage and children is a sunk cost. See also our episode on sunk cost fallacy. If you leave this relationship that's not 100% what you want, you may not get another one, or you're going to have to start over. You're going to have to start from ground zero. If you've been with someone and trying to get married for 7-8 years, I can understand why you think, I'm 36 now. By the time I'm in a place where I can get married with the next partner, I might be out of childbearing age. That's because I think you're with a partner who doesn't really want to build a life with you.
In my case, I was with a partner who didn't want to have children. He didn't share that with me. It would have been cool to know that.
I've definitely known women who trudged on in the relationship they had in their 20s with someone who didn't want to build a life with them, but they felt like they had spent so much time. Then when it ended, their next relationship, they got married within a couple of years because the person wanted to marry them. It's tricky. You can't make somebody want to marry you.
Circling back to Bonnie Raitt, I can't make you love me if you don't.
And they may love you and they may like you and they may be attracted to you, but marriage is a whole other level of commitment and love and trust and respect.
But if you look at the way that we talk about men in our society, the messaging is all men are basically children. And in order to get what you want, you have to coerce, you have to manipulate, and you have to force them to do your bidding.
When you take a child man and manipulate him into getting married, this is when these acts of aggression and humiliation come on the table because he doesn't want to be there. What is your responsible diagnosis for a man who insists on smashing cake into his bride's face?
Narcissistic personality disorder or just domestic violence. That's an aggressive act. I wasn't at your cake smashing because Virginia decided to schedule her actual wedding vows and the party a week apart.
Right.
Because I was a broke 20-something. I could only do one of the things. Did you guys do the cake smash at your wedding?
No. I think he asked about it and I said no. I want this to be a fun party. Our reception was so casual. It was just a party with a cake at it. We didn't do any of the traditional things. We just had a party with DJing and our bulldog came. And
did your bulldog DJ?
We've tried very hard to train her to DJ, and she would wear headphones for like a little while. She told us that lack of thumbs was really going to hurt her. She has a dew claw halfway up her leg, but it wasn't enough.
I see. Yeah, you really do need to have an opposable thumb. Hazel could not cut it.
And by cut it, we mean the track.
I remember at my wedding, my husband, shock and awe, really wanted to do the cake smash. And I said to him, if you do anything besides carefully place a piece of cake in my mouth, I will never talk to you again. And I meant it. I've looked at the photos of that moment and you can see the stress on my face. I felt like he was going to pull something.
And he did a lot of things to humiliate you at your wedding in other ways.
One of his friends brought a prostitute that he had met at the airport to the wedding. In the middle of the dance party portion of the wedding, we were dancing on the beach. He started stripping down to his underwear. He and this prostitute and his friend jumped in the sea together.
What's up, Pammy?
I have a photo actually where I have his glasses on my face and I'm doing a horrible impression of him because he'd left the glasses with me so he could get in the ocean. And I was mocking him because I thought, what an idiot.
Right. I think my husband basically liked me. So I was not privy to humiliation rituals in my marriage.
I think my husband loved me. I just think he was a very mentally ill, disturbed person. Loving me properly was not really in the cards for him.
I was aggravated at the number of people who told this woman whose husband had cut her with a fork that it was a joke. People will say it's a joke a lot of the time when they want to cover for crummy behavior.
When they want to cover for abusive behavior.
I think I know what a joke is, probably.
Doubt it. You're just a woman and women aren't funny. If you want to find out more about that, refer back to our episode, Are Women Funny?
People will say it's a joke when they're lying and there wasn't any humor to it. And people will say it was a joke when they do something they wanted to do, but it doesn't elicit the response that they wanted.
Sometimes when people say awful things to you, they'll be telling you the truth, but it's not socially acceptable and you don't accept it well. And then they go, oh, I was just kidding.
I was just kidding. If a guy hits on you and you turn him down, he'll sometimes say, oh, well, I was just kidding around. Oh, wouldn't it be crazy if you and me and this prostitute I met took off our clothes and ran into the sea? Just kidding.
At my wedding.
But the other kind of thing that people will say as a joke is some sort of harassment or assault. Well, I was just kidding around. Tell me what's funny about that. That's actually one of my favorite things to do. When a man says something that's stupid and offensive and is not a joke, I'll just repeatedly ask, tell me what's funny about it. You know, I was just horsing around. It was just a joke. Well, explain to me what the joke is. I like to laugh, which is something I picked up from my father. You think I don't like a laugh?
I also enjoy saying, ew.
Yuck. Ew, yuck. I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but there was a male comic talking about Michael Jackson and kids, and he was doing it in like 2020. Is it funny that he's a pedophile or is it funny that he sexually abused children? Which is the funny part? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm not offended. I just want to understand what's funny about it.
Tell me why this is a joke.
Tell me what's funny about talking about this dead man who sexually assaulted children. I really want to know. And there was no joke. It was just, oh, isn't it shocking that I can talk about this?
Our mother was recently telling me a story. Their retirement community was visited by belly dancers. I witnessed it. It was interesting. It was a lot of women in their 40s and 50s, maybe even up to 60s. They didn't necessarily have the ideal body type as one would claim it in the United States. And I know who these men are. One of them looks like he's 8 months pregnant and he's 85 years old. The other one is bald and in a scooter full time. And they were telling my mother that they would have liked it better if it had been 19-year-old models doing the dancing. And she said, well, what would you have said? I would have said, wow, that's disgusting. You're old enough to be their great grandparent. Why 19? Because it's one age over legal sexual limits? What is that? Why is that a joke?
These are all good questions. The thing about belly dancing is that it has a different physical ideal than the rest of culture. Having some hips, having a little bit of extra body to move around is sexy. And that's what I think draws women to it, because it's a way to feel empowered.
Like there was a woman with a sword on her head.
And when men see women, one, having fun, two, feeling attractive and empowered, they love to criticize that. They are jumping over each other. They don't think she should be having fun. They don't think that she should be behaving in a sexy way. Let people know about it. I find it very, not shocking, but aggravating that when a woman asks, my husband hurt me and humiliated me in front of our family, should I leave? And people say no. Of course you should leave. Because even if the hurting you is an accident, he's telling you your consent is not important to me. I'm going to do what I want. I'm physically bigger than you. I want to demonstrate my power over you. Stop me when the messages start being too positive.
I'm willing to humiliate you in front of everyone that you know and love.
I know that you have spent a car payment.
Just your hair and makeup, really.
Right. And a down payment on the dress. I know that you wanted to have fun today and have this be a fun demonstration of our love for each other.
And you wanted to feel special and worthy and important.
And screw you for that. How dare you? I think that it's very much the same impulse that old men have about belly dancers. Every one of them could go look at pornography in his room if he wanted to. They are aggravated by women feeling empowered and they want to take them down a peg. If your first impulse on marrying someone is that you wish they would be taken down a peg, why are you there?
Why are you doing this? This is a mistake. And I think it's because you are not a good person. If my first impulse is to harm my partner, then I'm not a good person. And that's what I try to tell a lot of women when they will tell me these horrible things that the men in their lives are doing. And they'll say, what do you think of that? That man woke up this morning and decided while he was pulling his pants on that it was an okay thing to pin you down and smash an entire top of a cake on your head and get it all in your hair and your face and laugh at you with all of his friends. And anyone who thinks that's a good idea is not a good person that you should be dating or marrying.
Men's humor and quote unquote comedy has frequently been about putting women in their place, sexualizing women, calling them sexual slurs. A lot of male humor is about the put down. If it's a woman, doubly so.
When we look at the Paul brothers punching the cake, what is that? That is men performing for other men. That has nothing to do with women at all.
So, Laura, what are your final thoughts on this topic of cake smash?
I'm going to circle back to, is marriage good for women? My answer is a resounding no. I think we need to stop letting men get away with crap. We need to start putting them in their place and holding them accountable for their actions and pressing charges. That's not okay. Because if you saw this in any other context, if you walked into a restaurant and a man was smashing spaghetti into his date's face and pinning her to the ground, you would say that's assault.
Right.
We need to stop having assault be an acceptable part of any ritual.
I understand why men are confused, because up until 15 minutes ago, it was totally okay to humiliate and assault your partner.
You can feel it in the air. We are sick and tired of this crap, and we're not taking it anymore. We have had a cultural shift. Something is changing here. And I think that stuff like this is going to go by the wayside.
How does a woman get to the altar with a man who at least doesn't respect her?
The first time he knocks you out of a hammock, that is it.
Mark that down, team.
So, Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
My final thoughts on this topic are, if you continue on a path with a person who would treat you this way, it's never going to be good. This attitude towards you, towards femininity, towards womanhood, towards the things that are important to you is not going to improve. You can absolutely take this millstone of this marriage to this man and carry it around your neck to show people that you're worthwhile as a human being, but you might be able to find your worth in other ways.
And I also think the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And if I've decided on the most important day of your life that I'm going to try to destroy your appearance and humiliate you in front of your friends and family, that's probably going to be more of the same as we carry on. I had many hammock drops in various forms throughout our relationship.
Laura, where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
If they are dating a man who likes to push them out of hammocks, they should check me out at lauraryan.org, and I can give them some sound advice. If they're interested in my silly, ridiculous TikTok page, they can find me at I am Laura Ryan on TikTok. If they want to find our podcast on Instagram, they can find us at My Sister's a Therapist. They can also find us on our website, mysistersatherapist.com. Virginia, if people want to find out what you think about cake smashing in a comedic realm, how would they do that?
You can find out a lot of my thoughts on my website, which is http://www.badinia.com. I have a calendar up there. If you are in the Pacific Northwest and are interested in seeing me do comedy, you can find out where I'll be. My TikTok is Badinia. My Instagram is also Badinia, where I also promote dates and stuff. If you would like to send us a nice email, an idea, a comment, you can write us directly at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you would like to hire us to do a lecture on why cake smashing is bad, or to smash cake into the Paul brothers' faces, you can find us at hireus@mysistersatherapist.com. Laura, now is the time where you sometimes read a nice review or comment someone has left for us. And if you're listening to this podcast and you've ever had a positive thought about us in your life, we would love for you to write it in an Apple, Spotify, or Audible review. Laura, do you have one to share this week?
I certainly do. This is an Apple podcast review, my favorite kind. It's from a new listener called King of All Cosmos. The title got cut off, but I'm going to pretend that I know what the end of it says. So wait, time out. A comedian and a therapist who are sisters? I was introduced to this podcast over last weekend and was shocked, I say, that this has been off my radar for so long. My Sister's a Therapist is funny, insightful, smart, and actively restoring my faith in humanity. The first episode I listened to was Heroes, about how being famous can make you an a-hole. Podcasts for me are usually just background noise for doing the monotonous chores around the house. However, this one got me putting my laundry on hold and immediately grabbing a pen to write some things down. By the 10-minute mark, I was sitting at the end of my bed and exclaiming things like, exactly, and that's what I've been saying to my audience of dirty clothes and unmatched socks. It's so rare to find a podcast that elicits a response, but this one had me impulsively squawking, hallelujah, or physically raising my hand in agreement. Case in point, when talking about separating the art from the artist, when an artist's work becomes intrinsically to your persona and DNA, my immediate thought was how I watched Morrissey collapse into a heap of grossness that he is today. Immediately after, the host talked about her experience with the same artist. Seriously thought I was being trolled as these ladies were pulling thoughts out of my mind. Bunch of sister brainworms. Even though my laundry might remain unfolded and my garage might look like a backdrop from Sanford and Son the musical, my brain is totally getting refreshed with every new episode from this podcast. Thank you so much, King of All Cosmos.
Thank you, Neil. This is someone who, I got to say, the turn time on this request was
quick.
Kiss.
It was quick.
I appreciate you. That's amazing.
I know it was long, but I think it was worth it.
It was just so full of nutrition.
I would also say to King of All Cosmos, the way that I do it is I body double. I listen to a podcast on headphones and I walk around and do my laundry and do all the things and let the podcast guide me.
Still in all, we want to leave you with some inspirational words from someone who's inspired us. And these are the words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn, as he said, "We can make it, baby."
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.